Looking to trade your old bulk for some of the latest Pokemon booster boxes? Well, check ccgcastle.com. The process is very simple. Send in 1400 cards and get a brand new sealed booster box back. We ship boxes worldwide for free once we get your cards. Make sure to check video description or check ccgcastle.com for more informations. How's it going, Poke Trainers? Once again, welcome back to Pokemon TCG Center. Another video, but this time I'm gonna show you the deck list that I actually used on my national championship tournament, which I actually won. So I attempt on that tournament with a Garbodor Zoroark Drampa deck. Mainly, I worked on this deck list with my friend, and we both used the same deck list. I was the first, he finished on the third place. So yeah, it was definitely interesting to play with this deck, and I must say that this deck was so consistent that I actually lost only in the Swiss rounds to my mate, who actually ended third. And basically he won because he had much better setup, and I was forced to use my Tapu Lele, and I started with the Drampa, so that's the reason why I actually lost the matchup, because he was able to take 4 prize cards against me. So yeah, we played 4 rounds and then top 8, and basically 3 more rounds I played in the top 8. So the first matchup I played against Dragon's Wish Darkrai, won 2-0. The game number 2 was against Lapras GX Water Toolbox deck, won also 2-0 against it. The third game was very tough. I played against West Queen Zoroark deck, but managed to win also 2-0. And the fourth game before the top cut, I played against my mate, who used the same deck, and I lost 2-0 because of the very bad drawing of the second game, and unfortunately bad start in the game number 1. Then in the top cut, I played against, again, Lapras GX box, and then against West Queen. Also managed to beat both decks 2-0, and then in the finals, I played against Garbodor Drampa deck, which I also managed to win 2-0. And yeah, basically this deck was very damn good. So as you can see, on this deck list, I ran 18 Pokemons, 32 trainer cards, and 10 energies. The huge advantage about this deck was simply the fact that in 90% of the matchups, you're just gonna set up one Tapu Lele on the bench, and that's mainly gonna be it. Once you set up Tapu Lele turn 1 for the Bridget, you're just gonna go combining between different attackers, between Zoroark, Mindjack, of course. In the early game, if your opponent set up with plenty of Pokemons on the bench. And of course, in the late game, you're just gonna finish the game with a Trash Avalanche. In some certain matchups, Drampa was also pretty good, especially against Drampa Garbodor, where I was able to basically beat my opponent by using Acid Spray in the early game, and of course Regis' Edge to discard his double course energies, and then later was pretty much easy work for me. Tapu Koko was here mainly for that Guzma play, for the free retreat, but also in some certain matchups, Fly Flip was pretty good because he was able to spread some damage counters around the board, and then you had much easier job to knock out something with the Mindjack and the Choice Band, of course. One copy of Zoroark Break with the Fall Play was also pretty good. I used it a couple times. Mainly, you can just copy whatever attack you want. Also on this deck list was one copy of the Garbodor with the Garbotoxin. So with the Garbotoxin Garbodor, you can just simply shut down abilities, which is very powerful, especially against Greninjas. 2 Tapu Leles, of course, and one copy of Oranguru with Instruct. I kind of like Oranguru, but Oranguru was also here made to be as a attacker. Probably plenty of you would laugh when I say he was here to be as an attacker. Well, that's mainly because with the Psychic you can hit for 60, but if you have Choice Band you can go up to the 90, and with something like Kukui you can go for 110. It's a pretty good counter against Ho GX especially if Ho attempt to attach 4 energies, because then we can go for 190, and that can be one hit knockout against Ho, for example, turn 1, actually turn 2, as for example. So yeah, that was mainly because of it. Also on the other side, with 5 Pokemons on our opponent bench, Mindjack can go for 160, 190 with the choice band, and for example with Kukui 210, which is enough to one-hit knockout some Pokemons like Ninetales, which was very important. But yeah, also there was some other tech cards like a multi-switch. So basically, as long as you have multi-switch, you can just surprise your opponent with different attacker without too many problems. As for example, if your active Pokemon have a few damage counters, you can just stand in with the Zoroark, and then you can just retreat, for example, down to the Drampa, attach energy, play multi-switch, and then you can go with Berserk for 180, 200, depending on what type of the Pokemon is on the other side. But mainly Berserk with Kukui for 170 for the one-hit knockout against those annoying Greninjas. And overall, yeah, I mean, deck worked just pretty well. It serves pretty well. It was very consistent. So I'm kind of happy with it. And in the end, I managed to get to the first place. So from the other cards, I also played 2 copies of Field Blower, 2 copies of multi-switches, as I mentioned it at the beginning of the almost at the beginning of the video. Multi-switch was a very nice card in this build. And I don't know why players don't run multi-switch, but it can definitely be a good card, especially with the Zoroark, because you can just stand in retreat and then just, you know, combinate another attacker with that multi-switch. But also, pretty cool play with the multi-switch is the fact that you don't need Stadium to power up your Drampa. For example, turn 1 Rainbow Energy somewhere, and then turn 2 you can just attach double Corsair Energy to Drampa and again transfer energy with the multi-switch, and you'll have 10 damage counters to one of your Pokemons with Rainbow Energy turn before, and then you can hit with the Berserk for full HP, and you don't need to have any damage counter in Drampa. 2 copies of Rescue Stretchers, of course, without Super Road. Really no need Super Road, in my opinion, in this deck, but also I'm running 2 regular energies, so it wouldn't be good. 4 copies of Ultra Ball, and of course 4 copies of the Versus Seeker. In addition to item cards, I also tagged 3 copies of Choice Band and 3 copies of Floatstone. I find that was pretty much the sweet spot. I didn't need more than 3 Choice Bands or more than 3 Floatstones. Every time that I need something, I had that in my hand, especially with the teammates, so I was very pleased. Supporter line, interesting. I decided to go, of course, with 1 copy of Bridget, as any other deck these days. But then I decided to take 1 Guzma and 1 Lysander. Guzma was here mainly because I was afraid about being maybe confused by those Espion decks, but I managed to avoid them. And the reason why Guzma is good against those types of the decks is the fact that if you don't have Zoroark on your bench, you can always escape from confusion with the Guzma, for example. But also in some certain situations, Guzma helped me to win actually match in a final where I stuck with my Drampa in the front and my opponent had Tapu Lele on the bench, and I had 1 Versus Seeker left, Garbodor on my bench, and only 1 Psychic Energy, so I was not able to retreat my Drampa, and I had only 2 cards remaining, and my opponent stuck with the Drampa also in the front because I just played a couple of Regis Edges and he did the same. And then I knew that I will have sooner or later that Versus Seeker for the Guzma, and when I managed to grab that Versus Seeker for the Guzma, I was able to retreat down to the Garbodor with a Trash Lanche, power it with the 1 energy card, and then simply knocks out his Tapu Lele on the bench for the 1-hit knockout. So that brings me the victory in the game number 1. Also, 1 copy of Lysander in some other situations where you don't want to retreat, so you can have 2 different options. And of course, for the draw support, I ran 3 copies of N and 4 copies of Professor Sycamores. Some other tech cards was, of course, Professor Kukui for extra 20 damage in case if we needed. And of course, the best card in this deck, the MVP of this deck, definitely Teammates. I probably used Teammates 15 times in a whole tournament, maybe even 20 times. every time my opponent gets the knockout, I just Versus Seeker for teammates and then grab any 2 cards that I need. And pretty much that was it. 10 energies, of course, 4 DCEs, 4 Rainbow energies, and 2 regular Psychic energies was also in this deck. So yeah, that was pretty much the deck list that I used. Unfortunately, we didn't have official Pokemon tournament, so we still decided to play, of course, with the cards that was in the standard format before the rotation. Unfortunately, this deck will not be in the standard format anymore, but it can be played in the expanded format. But unfortunately, the expanded format is a little bit different. Deal with those Trevenants and other decks. I'm not sure what about Fort Wayne. I still didn't check stream or anything, so I'm not informed. I'm not even sure which deck managed to get to the tops, but I think that probably couple Trevenants is in the top 16, and probably also couple Dark Rays. I don't see what else players would run. Maybe some fighting decks with Magnetic Storm or something like that are also around. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. That was my deck list that I used and won my national championship. If you're looking for any of these cards, of course, you can find them on ccgcastle.com. Link is provided in my video description, so just make sure to check that. So thanks for watching. Make sure to check my other videos. Let me know also in the comments below what you think about this deck list. So yeah, have a nice day till the next time. So see you in the next video. Goodbye.